In a moment, why this chap is watching the wall instead of the TV, a 24-hour blackout for SIM cards in Russia, and a warning against rehabilitating Stalin. First, Kommersant reports that the budget deficit in Russia is growing. The budget returns to a deficit. In October, annual budget revenues lagged behind expenditure by another 0.4 trillion rubles. The federal budget deficit grew by another 400 billion rubles to 4.2 trillion, around $51 billion, or 1.9% of GDP. According to updated calculations of the Finance Ministry, in the final 2 months of the year, the gap between spending and revenues will grow even more, up to 5.7 trillion rubles, or 2.6% of GDP. The reason? The irreducible level of required state expenditure amid reduced expectations for oil and gas revenues and other budget revenues. Meanwhile, more taxes on the way. Moskovsky Komsomolets writes about a tax on gadgets. Russians need to prepare themselves for consumer electronics to go up in price. From the 1st of September 2026, foreign and domestic electronics manufacturers will be subject to a so-called technological levy. The measure, designed to support the technological sovereignty of Russia and the development of domestic industry, evokes strong associations with the previously introduced recycling fee for cars. In both cases, the direct effect is an increase in retail prices. It's not just importers who will need to fork out, but Russian manufacturers too, even those whose products are produced in Russia with Russian components and raw materials. The cartoon says it all, really. This fellow is wondering, shall I buy a new TV set? Too expensive. Anyway, why would I need to? I have a vivid imagination. From televisions to telephones and a temporary blackout in Russia for SIM cards, the Ministry of Digital Development has announced the introduction of a 24-hour cooling-off period for SIMs. Now, on returning to Russia from abroad, a user will need to confirm their SIM. The new mechanism is required to protect against drone attacks. The lock will be activated either when returning from international roaming or if a SIM goes unused for 72 hours. In other words, as Komsomolskaya Pravda explains, even if you haven't travelled anywhere, but if your phone was switched off for at least 3 days. The paper also describes this as part of a battle against enemy drones that use SIMs for navigation and guidance. You can reportedly get the SIM working quickly by clicking a link sent in a text message and ticking a box for authorization. There's a lot of Sergei Lavrov in today's Russian papers, including the government daily Rossiyskaya Gazeta, with the headline, "Moscow is ready for dialogue." Is that a message directed at Washington? Perhaps this is too. In Arguments and Facts, Russia won't let itself be provoked by the US. It's not time yet for nuclear explosions. Russia will carry out nuclear tests only if the US or other nuclear powers do so, emphasised Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump appears in Komsomolskaya Pravda's Wednesday supplement, although the newspaper isn't very complimentary. You can dance all you like, Mr. Trump, but our schoolchildren are more knowledgeable. If Trump had studied in a Soviet school, his grades would be unsatisfactory. And finally, a big article in Moskovsky Komsomolets today warning against rehabilitating the Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. Dangerous Games with Stalin is the headline. The writer points out that the Speaker of the Duma, Vyacheslav Volodin, had praised a resolution passed by the Russian Communist Party's July Congress to declare as a mistake the decision of the 20th Congress of the Soviet Communist Party in 1956 to debunk Stalin's cult of personality. The authorities in Volgograd region are pushing for the city of Volgograd to be renamed Stalingrad. The governor of Vologda region warmly welcomed the unveiling of a Stalin statue in the regional capital. The writer says any attempts to secure the full political rehabilitation of Stalin carry a direct and indirect threat to the national security of the Russian Federation.